Next up, we have Venura from Dialog. He's the head of PSI, like, as we like to call it, but stands for Product Service Innovation, not CSI.
Might be more fun.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's start off something bad. Before Venura kicks in, just like to do kind of like a idea of who's who. I won't be coming to you and asking for a hand and stuff like that. Just a very generic thing of how many developers are here. You can just show of hands. Developers, guys who are into software. You guys are proud of it, right? You can, like, probably, I mean, no, nothing to be ashamed of, no? I didn't ask, where you went clubbing last night without telling your mom or something, no? Yeah, okay. Right. Guys into hardware, I know one guy is there, for sure. Networking, hardware, yeah, that's about it. So we'll survive. Okay, that's good. Then VCs. I mean, we should be familiar with the term by now, right? Awesome. Guys, obviously I can't say social media because everybody's on social media, but heavily involved as a kind of means of earning their living, kind of social media. Yeah. Awesome. Right. Yeah. Then I think there's one lawyer in the crowd. Any more lawyers? Legal, from the legal side of things? I think that everybody else also wants to know who this lawyer is, so I think you might as well raise your hand. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, awesome. Anybody else have missed out? Oh, the geeks? Yeah. Everybody here is a geek. Yeah, awesome. Okay, Mendis, sorry to take your time. Just thought I'd give you an understanding of the crowd as well. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Millie. Okay, the joy of being the last speaker of the evening. Right, so the notification that you guys saw about the talk, slightly different to that topic you see on the slides or up there. And a little bit of background to that. I was just having a sort of casual conversation with Millie and Nazli about this innovation competition that we were trying to kick off. So then they said, oh yeah, do it and refresh. And I went, oh, excellent, sounds a good place to do it and exactly the right sort of audience. And then they told me to come and talk about it. And then it was even worse. They said, come here and talk about yourself if you can't talk about the competition long enough. And believe me, I really don't want to talk about myself, and most of the interesting bits I shouldn't be talking in public. So I thought I should talk about innovation, just a little bit of background, a bit of theory, and hopefully position the competition well, and hopefully trigger off a few ideas and get you guys thinking a little bit. Well, you think a little bit differently. Right, oops, I should use that then. Right, so a bit of interesting. Jump straight into that. So we've had a talk from a VC talking about innovation, really. And any talk about innovation, you need to make the distinction between invention and innovation. For me, that's something that I had to do sort of very early on in my career, because I have a research background. I've been working in new product development. And I did a lot of work with academics, with universities who do hardcore research, publish papers, go to conferences, and present. So in my view, that is invention. They're doing, cutting edge, hands-on research, core sciences, fundamental stuff. But for me, the interesting stuff starts to happen when you cross over into the innovation domain. And that's what I've tried to highlight in the section below. And I think a lot of this audience is in that part of the equation. And this is all about taking those inventions, commercializing them, and essentially building a value proposition for a customer that lets you differentiate yourself from the competition. So it's about sustained revenue. So that's what innovation is. So, next one. So innovation, invention, innovation, whatever it is, the main thing there is thinking out of the box, creativity, doing something different the other guy isn't doing. So I've tried to list down a few things that sort of in my career, in the various roles I've had, the tools we've used, and the way we've tried to formally generate these ideas. For instance, for a lot of us, you walk on the street, you see a problem, you go, maybe I could do it like that. So that's great. If you're in a little startup environment and you want to do something quickly and you've got some spare time, you quickly prototype it, you show it to a few friends, you show it to a VC, you kick it off. But in other situations, if you're in a company like Dialog, for instance, where we actually have to look at specific tasks, specific areas, generate ideas, address customer requirements, then it's different. So in this space, that's where you get into the sort of normative style of creative idea generation. So you've got a specific problem. You've got a specific problem to address. How do you solve it? So now that one's a bit easy, but you're not always there. Exploratory, now that one is the more, what's the latest? Cloud computing. What can we do in cloud computing? You get a multidisciplinary team together, cross-functional multidisciplinary team together, and you have a brainstorming session. Ambient social networks, now that's one we've talked about. I'm sure if we get a small team of 10 people from here, we can have a very interesting conversation just brainstorming ideas around what you could do with it, potential applications, potential users. Now that one, well, I mean, in commercial research, you just throw out the window. That's like how penicillin was found, a complete accident. You don't get many of those. The next part is that part. So generating those ideas. So as I mentioned earlier, I mean, hands up here, people who use brainstorming as a technique for idea generation. And hands up people who've used brain writing as a technique for idea generation. That's good to hear. We've got 2 people. So would you like to share what brain writing is about? I don't want to do all the talking. No? Okay, so brain writing is essentially a more interesting variation of brainstorming. And the idea is you get the team together, everyone gets a little bit of paper, and they write their ideas down first. And then each person comes and pins up their ideas on a board, and then they take turns presenting their ideas and then having a discussion. And then it becomes a regular brainstorming session. So the reason that's done is because the nature of innovation in a collaborative team is a tricky one. Getting the right mix of people in a team, it's very hard. You got your introverts, your extroverts, you got your shapers, you got your various Belbin profiles running all over the place. So ideally in my experience, this is obviously open to debate, having a multidisciplinary team from various parts of the business with as much exposure and variety is the best for that kind of situation. Of course, the only problem is, in this sort of situation, there's always going to be someone who likes talking. And they're going to dominate the conversation, and they're going to push the brainstorming session in a particular direction. It's worse yet if you do a brainstorming session with your boss. No one's going to argue with your boss. It's like, okay, your idea, let's do that. So brain writing is a sort of a little bit of a nice one to sort of level the playing fields. And if you haven't quite got the right mix of people in the room, it's a good way to get people engaged. And if you haven't tried it, as I said, it's a very simple idea. In this space, it's something worth trying. Right, at least now we can talk about a little bit more interesting things and real products versus some dull old innovation theory. Right, you guys must know what this is. Right, there's enough people here who've seen this. Yeah, please. Familiar, Lego Mindstorms. Okay. And I presume you guys have played with this one first? So that one was the first generation of the Lego Mindstorms thing. Unfortunately, I haven't played with that. I played with that, and I had a great time. sorry, I should have probably asked who hasn't played with it, so to give you an idea what that is. So basically, this is Lego, the next generation of Lego that lets you program. There's sensors, there's a couple of actuators, and you can write a little program in a nice visual programming language, and it's built for kids. And that was the target market that it was aimed at. But when this first came out, what happened? People like me bought it and played with it. Not the kids, not the 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids who were supposed to be writing visual programming stuff for it. It was the geeks. It became a complete, get your Mindstorms kit out, hack things. I mean, I've seen someone build, it's a very low power device, by the way. I've seen someone building a Rubik's Cube robot out of this thing. It's pretty impressive. So anyway, after that little waffle on for a second, the reason I brought this up was this was generated using a very formal idea generation structured process within Lego. They didn't just come up with the next generation. They employed this what they call lead user group studies. So what they used was their whole new product team was driven by the hackers and the people who took it apart, who modified the sensors, who did all kinds of software hacks, hardware hacks, everything. They went to those people and went, right, okay, we know you guys are crazy, you're only about 20 or 30% of our target market, but tell us, because you guys are going to be the people who break it. So tell us what you need this to look. So this employing lead user group technique has been used by lots of people. And in terms of some of the more familiar things, I guess you might have heard of, like focus groups and things. This tends to be the sort of the newer, more modern version of doing that kind of thing. So again, I'm afraid I had to go back to some theory again. It's mixed up. So we've talked a little bit about innovation and invention. And actually, to be honest, most of the innovation that happens in the world, in companies, tends to be just the incremental innovation. So don't sell it short. Incremental innovation is just as good, certainly if you're looking in terms of commercials and making money. But I just wanted to make it clear that innovation doesn't have to be fundamental research. It can be all the way from the service, the process, which is used to actually manufacture the product or service, or the service delivery. So for instance, how does Dialog sell SIM cards to new customers? We find a new and more effective way of doing that. Innovation. And similarly, business model and business process. So I have another example on that. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't have to explain to people in the audience what those are. And the reason I picked these two products, or that product mainly, was because that wasn't a radical innovation. Or you could argue it's a radical innovation, but it certainly wasn't a new product. There were MP3 players out there. In fact, there were quite a few. There were ones that were cheaper, that had more space. So, question to the audience, why did that work, and why didn't those others? Go on. Simplicity, usability, yeah. That was on the first slide. That's all right, that's all right. Guys, any more thoughts? I agree with you, guys, by the way, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I think it's a combination of all of those things, and I think what you bring out is core to Apple's brand and everything they do, and it's sort of their identity going out in the world. For me, my opinion, it was really a business model, business process innovation, along with the excellent design. So they went right up the stack. And even now, they are the only completely vertically integrated company, and they have so much control in the user experience. from what the device feels like to how it works in iTunes and the apps. So Apple, compared to any other manufacturer like this, can pretty much guarantee an excellent user experience, and that's sort of developed through its brand. So that one, okay. Another little bit of theory, which I stole from Wikipedia. These Rogers factors. So we've talked a little bit about some of these things, barriers to adoption. We've heard about how sometimes things like ambient social networks take a little while to get going. We've heard talks about building business cases for products, services that get widely adopted, drive those revenues. And personally, I find the Rogers factors as a good way of looking at any new product. So if you've got a new idea, you've seen something new, you're thinking of something new, it's always a sort of a nice sanity check to go back and start looking at those sort of things. So the first one, the relative advantage. So when Apple released the iPod, they would have to have looked at the market and gone, how is this better than my competitors? I mean, when you're in that part of the curve, when you're in the early adopter curve, then your target market segment is different. So your marketing, your product positioning, everything should be around addressing that market group. So the business pitches that you give should reflect that. Compatibility. Now that's a big one. Who's going to, unless you're Apple, you can't really build a completely different cable or something like that. No one's going to use it, or no one's going to buy it. But then, if you're Apple, then you're okay. Simplicity. So again, as you mentioned, it's a key thing to any innovation, because end of the day, you want to make life easier for someone. There's a very few people I know, probably like myself, sitting there messing around with a Lego Mindstorms kit and taking things apart. Most people wouldn't want to do that. So the simplicity is a key thing to selling any product. Trialability. Now, I mean that one, you want to trial something before you buy, right? Try before buying. You want to see what kind of value something can give you before you part with your cash. And finally, observability. Now, what can I say? The perfect example for this is Dyson. Dyson vacuum cleaners. Again, more expensive than regular vacuum cleaners. Better performance. But any ideas why they tend to have a better market profile, or why they do a bit better? Okay, so we are lost on the Dyson. Sorry, that was a bad example picked. So Dyson vacuum cleaners are higher-end vacuum cleaners. They're very well designed. They're very well put together, very ergonomically designed, nice fancy colors. More powerful suction than other vacuum cleaners. But the thing is, a Dyson vacuum cleaner, compared to the old vacuum cleaners, they have a transparent coating. The dust box is transparent. So you use your regular Hoover, it fills into a box and you throw away your box, you don't know how much dirt you've collected. You use your Dyson, you can see this thing filling up with dirt. So the observability is off the scale there. Right, so a couple of examples talking about why things didn't quite get past that bit of the curve. So who's seen that keyboard before? These are, Millie, you promised me some geeks, come on. No one? Yes, there you go. It's the VC there. Has anyone tried to sell you a Dvorak keyboard yet? Right, so this, a little bit of background. The Dvorak keyboard, again, you might know a little bit more about it than I do, was designed from the ground up to improve your typing speed based on the number of characters in the English language, etc., etc. because the QWERTY keyboard was actually designed to stop the typewriter thingies, because you know the old typewriters used to go like that, and it was built to deliberately slow down the typing speed so that the things wouldn't jam. So this thing, I mean, you go to a techie person, I'll be like, wow, you know, wonderful, this is great. But then you need to think about all the factors on there. Why would someone completely relearn how to use a keyboard? Replace all the other keyboards and you got 2 keyboards. And if you really want to demonstrate that it's a better product, you need to at least work on some of these other factors. And hitting that market segment effectively is a very difficult sell. It's like we were just talking about this outside earlier with some of the guys at the back about building a new social network now. Is anyone realistically going to build a new social network now that Facebook is out there? So these are all things that I would, you know, encourage you to think about, you know, around the new product idea space. And the one there, I'm not going into too much detail there. That's the Betamax step. Again, a very similar example of where it wasn't, people didn't think about those early adapters very well. Right, now hopefully those are not like Betamax and the Dvorak keyboard. Those are a couple of Dialog services that have actually worked really well. And it is meeting a very strong customer need. And they were developed, not formally, but through really understanding the customer demographic. So ask credit basically means you can ask for a prepaid customer base. It lets you ask for credit from a friend. And similarly, that service lets you send credit. So this has got a huge following, and it's probably one of the, as I said, even though it hasn't been designed from the ground up targeting this target market, it just came up with, you know, one engineer going, God, I need to do this, and it's suddenly taking off. So that is the sort of thing I want you to think about when I'll come back to that, about this competition that I got to talk about. So after all that waffling, this is actually what I'm here to talk to you about. So the idea is every month we're going to take a 30-minute slot in the sessions, hopefully. And before that, we will, 2 weeks before that, we would ask for ideas submitted. So we will do a quick filtering, shortlisting 5 of those, and we will do a very, you know, very business school style elevator pitch. 3 minutes presentation and 1 minute questions. And what we would like to do is have Dialog product people here. These are the people who actually sell these things, a couple of them, and of course audience participation. So the view is, for, you know, an idea that's been submitted, you'll get some good feedback on it, and you'll get some direction on how to improve it for all the ideas presented. To make it more fun and to make it so that you guys will keep submitting new ideas and not just having a chat about it, is that we will give you a cash prize for whoever who's the shortlisted, the one who wins of the 5. And I want to be completely upfront and clear here. This is not Dialog trying to steal people's ideas or do anything like that. We've got a very open innovation model, and what we would like to do is whoever who wins this, we would like to work with them closely. A little bit of mentorship on the business side, on the technical side, what we can do, how we can take it to market. So that kind of thing. And that's completely we will do on an ongoing basis without any obligation to offer it as a Dialog service. Personally, I think it'll be a bit of fun for us outside the regular day job. Of course, that is always an option. But I'm not going to say, you know, it's impossible to say now at this stage what that idea is going to be like. So that's a quick view of what the competition is going to be like. Are there any questions about the competition? About the innovation stuff, I can speak to you guys offline, I think. That's a little bit more theory. Yeah, please. Oh, yeah, it is. A new car, actually. No, I think it's me still trying to work out the details. But I can promise you it'll be better than a cheap dongle. I hope. See, I shouldn't have said that. Right. So, sorry. Yeah, next question. Not about the cash price.
So I was looking at some innovation with regards to communication.
Yeah. So that would be the idea. Sorry, I should have been quite specific about that. So our view would be the ideas should be along the lines of what you would offer as a mobile IT service. So that would be the scope of the ideas. And I can go to the next slide that we put in last minute. So as I said, there's going to be some support for you guys on the business side, on the technical side. And this is a little bit of a sneak peek at what we've got in view in the next couple of months. Unfortunately, except for that, which is one page, the rest is still on a slide. But our view is to start giving a whole set of tools around our network APIs. Yes, sorry. Thank you. I'll mention that. So these network APIs, we plan to be offering a whole series of them towards the end of the year. One of them is already out, and there's a simulator for that online, which you can use, and that's on that side. But our view is to start offering a whole set of tools, from version control stuff to bug tracking, a whole bunch of hosting, platform as a service, that kind of thing, to support the developer community and work with you guys. That bit, no, that's the cash prize, guys. That's a cash prize for everybody. So our view here is to offer all of this stuff free to developers. It's going to be free for developers, and it's going to go as a rev share when sold to our end customers. So through our app store, you will have access to our customer base.
Is this platform dependent or independent? So is it like web apps, Android apps, iOS?
So on the roadmap, it's platform independent. But initially, the SDKs, those APIs, are web services. So they can be used by anything. But eventually, we want to start bringing in all the platforms. Yeah.
The App Store is also, well, I mean, I think we're rolling out platform-based, right?
Yes.
Very first.
We'll roll it out first. We are still like dragging it along.
And any timeline in particular, or just magically it'll all see?
No. I can't really answer that without going into like, first of all, getting kicked.
Sensitive information.
And well, it's more the fact that we'll have to deliver it then. And I don't think I can stand up here again if I haven't. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Just on the competition thing,
Mm-hmm.
Are you interested in physical products as well, as opposed to just development stuff?
No, I'm afraid we are looking at services. But if you've got, it's a tricky one, right? If you got a product, a physical device or something that could turn into an ambient plant that lights up when people SMS you.
It's a winner.
That's my idea, by the way. I've said that already. First prize to me.
Just a quick question. Now,
Yeah.
if you come up with an idea that involves payments,
Mm-hmm.
what percentage will you give to Dialog and all that other stuff?
No, so this is completely for you or whoever submits the idea. Dialog is not taking part in any.
No. I mean, if your product or whatever, when you integrate.
Oh, when
with
it goes commercial.
Yeah.
So when it goes commercial, also you have the choice of going through us or someone else. Also, we are not restricting that.
Yeah.
But that we will
But
obviously.
if I'm using the Dialog SDK, it's going to come on the Dialog
Right.
platform.
Got you.
And
You're talking about the developer terms and conditions. I'm afraid I can only share that when we actually launch the product.
Okay. But is it? I mean. No, but I mean,
Yeah.
if someone pays for my app, say 100
Yeah.
rupees, are we
Yes.
going to get to keep the 100 rupees, or is
No, that would work on a rev share. So the end customer would pay for the app, and we would have a rev share with the developer. That's the model we would work to. But all your prototyping and testing would be free.
Okay.
And if no one takes your app, it doesn't cost you anything, apart from the hours spent developing it. So the competition, the ideas that we have in the competition, they are not exclusive at all. But the developer APIs would be specific to Dialog, because the developer APIs would be using our network assets, so doing various network services. So they would be to Dialog customers. Yes. If it's an IT service that's not tied to our network, it would be the whole customer base. Yeah.
For example, like an Android app, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions, guys? Cash price. Yeah.
I'd push for both. Come on.
Toyota, man. Yeah. So, no more questions except for the cash price. Yeah. So I think Venura, that's about it. Okay. Big thank you to Venura. Yeah. I think one clarification, I promised geeks to Venura just that, modern day geeks from this era, not like, back in the day when, beta tapes and, yeah. But we got one more presentation by, not presentation, just a talk. I don't need to tell where he's from because, his t-shirt says it all. Oh, recording. Okay. Wow. So at that time I was in Singapore. I was based out of Singapore. I was working as a business consultant. I saw that on LinkedIn, not on Google. And then I thought, well, it looks like a great opportunity. I've been wanting to come back to Sri Lanka. And then I applied after all that crazy stuff you will hear. You can Google interview process, which is true. I managed to land on the job. I landed in Sri Lanka 10 days back, and the first time I came here is this. So I'm sure that we are very keen. The sign that they have recruited me is an absolute sign of their commitment and their future plans for Sri Lanka. Honestly, I'm not qualified or at the moment can declare more information than the fact that I'm employed by Google and I'm in Sri Lanka. But few things we are doing very interesting. I know that I'm standing in between going home and now in session. So a couple of things we are doing in Sri Lanka is that, as the t-shirt says, the map maker is a priority for us. We want to make sure that the Sri Lanka, the maps, Google Maps brought to a more accurate kind of a level. We had our first inaugural meeting with the map makers 2 weeks back on a Saturday, a full day session about how to do that, what is the process to follow. It's a crowdsourcing kind of initiative. It's voluntary 100%. But we are very pleased that there are so many people interested in maps. I would have never imagined. In Sri Lanka, they came from Batiklo, Gaul, Kurunegala, all these places, and I was very happy to meet them. And hopefully, a couple of things we want to do is bring the Google Maps to a much better level, as well as allow navigation for those who have navigation facilities on their vehicles, which cannot use right now properly, navigation facility in Sri Lanka. The second project we are embarking upon, and which are very close to my heart, I'm very passionate about, is something people who may have heard this project called Art Project. It's basically trying to bring the National Museum to a digital world. We are trying to get that digitized, as well as the next end result as bringing it as a virtual tour of the National Museum. That's something we are driving hard, but I realized that after coming here after about 1 year,
that the process of getting approvals is a little bit more tougher than anticipated for people like us, but then we will get there eventually. And also, a couple of other things is that the developers who are here would be very keen that we are starting our developer community forums in Sri Lanka. We are in touch with the 3 major universities. We met all 3 universities, the vice chancellors last week, the Colombo, Peradeniya and Moratuwa. And then hopefully we will want to make sure that there's a developer community that grows in numbers in terms of capability as well as numbers. And we want to promote that. We are very committed to making the developer community grow in Sri Lanka. And the last one is similar kind of a setup we had last Friday. It's called the Google Business Group. It's called GBG. There was a bit of a press coverage last week on that. Is basically entrepreneurs. And I'm very happy that I met a lot of venture capitalists and investors, because our next phase is to bring those entrepreneurs and venture capitalists together, because I think entrepreneurship is really lacking in Sri Lanka. People aren't keen to invest and to be bold and willing to take risk to invest on young people and young ideas. So that's something we need to nurture in this country. So I already have kind of spoke too much. If there are 1 or 2 questions, I'd like to take it. If there's nothing, we'll probably meet up. I'd love to come here next month as well. And thank you for opportunity to introduce myself.
So yeah, Google is in town. Yeah, basically, yeah. There's one question, yeah, sorry.
I just want to know, are you going to bring the Street View cars? And if so, how can we find out when so we can get in front of the cameras?
Are they Tata Nose by any chance?
You want the short answer or the lengthy answer?
Yes or no?
Yes.
I guess nobody's going to be mooning those cars, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, any accountancy I've gotten thing that, yeah, I've missed out on the accountants. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Any other categories that I've missed out? Designers? Yeah. Exactly. Web? Yeah. Designers? Yeah. Broadcasters? Awesome. Marketeers? Do I ask none of the above? Okay. So I have a few faces that are new to Refresh. So we'll probably get them across next time as well. So we might as well just get them to stand up and tell where they're from. Just doing a bit of marketing for my own company.
I am Nalin. I'm from Dialog. I'm surely not a new face, but I guess Melinda can't remember. Okay, my Twitter handle is Nalin Taranga. So basically, I develop websites, and I handle portals at Dialog. So that's about it.
Hi, I'm Charit. I'm also from Dialog. I'm not wearing my tag. I'm with Venura, as you heard earlier. We are both on the. I'm introducing these guys. These guys are the guys who need to be bribing. Yeah, so that's about it. Working with Venura on the whole developer, like SDK thing. So yeah.
Just 2 more from that side, then we're done. We're letting you run off. How about you?
Okay. Hi, I'm Pallavi, and I'm actually a complete tech novice. But I do write content for a lot of web programs and websites. So as I was telling Tisha, the idea is to come here and learn a little bit so that I don't look like a a complete fool while I'm talking to my web developers and designers.
And your Twitter as well?
Yes, Sri Lanka Diaries. I'm from India, therefore Sri Lanka Diaries. That's not a company or anything.
For a few moments, I would think that was spam bot or, you know, yeah, there's one.
Hiding. Hi, I'm Sa. I was actually tech. I'm actually a fashion designer and I just started my own label called Sa. And I'm here to explore more about how we can get involved in social media. Twitter is @switch_space.
Just like to thank all the presenters. Thank you for showing up. And the other new faces, please talk off here. You know, have your mingling sessions, and then hopefully somebody will buy me dinner. No, yeah. I just had to put that in. Oh, okay. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Good night. Get home safe.